Hey, Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And welcome to episode 341.
Yeah.
Welcome back to another week and another episode. I hope you are keeping safe and well. Hope you've had a cracking week and that you've managed to do something Doctor Who relatable. Related indeed.
We're using some new equipment and I'm just... to the side of me, it's saying I'm 94% uploaded. What does that mean? I'm being uploaded to the system, listeners.
Yeah, this is like a Cybermen kind of...
I'm 94% uploaded, it says.
Yeah, 94% upgraded.
Oh my God, what has Gary got me into? He's tricked me into some conversion upgraded thing. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. So we're trying some new tech this morning, so it might be a little bit up and down. We'll see. It sounds good so far, but we'll see. Yeah.
It does, yeah.
So I hope you are keeping well, our dear listener, Doctor Who fan. You've had a good one, and if you're new to the podcast, I'm mentioning this stuff because if you're new, this is your first time stepping aboard the TARDIS and finding the Big Blue Box podcast, then welcome, of course, welcome. We've got some really cool episodes that just went out, and if you're joining us from the one of the Grizzled Ancients, from your long time listener, then welcome back as always. It's great to have you all here. We haven't got much news to go through at all this week. It's very, very light. The only thing that was funny, dude, was there was I think it was the Radio Times or the another UK newspaper. I can't quite remember. Really scraping the barrel for Doctor Who news. So it was an interview with Matt Strevens, I think.
Yes, yeah.
About Jodie Whittaker, and essentially it was a case of what's Jodie doing now that she's left Doctor Who. And we know that she wrapped up filming everything months and months ago. So it's a bit of a weird article. But essentially the article was, what's Jodie been up to? And he said, not much. That was it. It was a case of, well, she's chilled out with her family. She's taken a bit of time off. She's seen friends and chilled out. And that's it. So scraping the barrel, quite literally, for news, dude.
Well, I know one thing Jodie Whittaker's been doing. Bit of the old because she's got a baby bump.
She's got a bit of a...
she's expecting her second baby. It was kind of... they said announced. There was like all the headlines were like, Jodie Whittaker announces she's pregnant at the Brits. And I think what that really translated is that Jodie turned up at the Brits wearing a big dress and was, obvious that she's got a bit of a bump there. So congratulations to Jodie. Yeah, so that's going to... that's going to have an impact on things, isn't it?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, from what we know, she's all done and dusted with all Who stuff.
Yeah,
and why not crack on, expand the old family?
Exactly. It did make me think of LFCC though, because she's still scheduled to be there in 2 weeks, whatever it is. And I'm thinking she's going to want to be careful, surely. So, if it was me, I mean, I don't know what it's like to be a pregnant woman. I mean, I have got a bit of a bump, but sadly it's not a baby. But if it was me, I don't think I'd be wanting to meet, even though all the restrictions just seem to have gone out the window here now and everyone's acting like COVID never existed. I'm afraid, not to be on a downer, it's still very much out there. And if it was me, I don't know if I'd want to be at a convention if I was pregnant. And I almost certainly think now she's going to have a screen in the photo studio. I think that's because we were talking about this the other week, weren't we? I was saying, like, if I was paying 75 quid, I would hope she wouldn't have a screen. That's before we knew she was pregnant. Now I'm thinking, surely she absolutely has to. I mean, I would be very surprised if she didn't. But I'm surprised she's doing it at all, to be honest. But there you go. Yeah. But I think she is.
There we go. She's committed now. Mind you, having said that, there's been loads of LFCCs and other Comic-Cons in the past where stars have pulled out fairly late in the day.
I just worry she might do that, but I don't know. We'll see. I mean, she's not that long been announced, and she would have known when she was asked to do it that she was pregnant, so presumably she'll still go ahead of it. But I just don't know how that'll affect her appearance and stuff like that. But
who knows?
Anyway, we shall see. We shall see.
Yeah, along with the news being quiet, other than that very insightful and in-depth article about what Joni's been up to, there's I've also been quiet. The only thing I've done is obviously watch the old review story, the Faceless Ones that we've got coming up in a wee bit. Have you done anything cool? Anything Doctor Who-y, dude?
No, I mean, being a six-parter, it didn't really leave a lot of time to get anything else in. No, BFI tickets to Revelation of the Daleks went on sale today. As we're recording on Thursday, so hopefully everyone who wanted to get them... Actually, I think they've literally just gone on sale as we record. But yeah, I've managed to nab one of those, so that's cool. The only other thing really that I've done, and we were talking about this just before we started recording actually, but I'll just briefly mention it, because it is one of those things that me and Gary both love, is when we go into a second-hand bookshop and they've got Doctor Who books, and there's an Oxfam in the next town from where I live that I always just check out. Every now and again, they'll get a couple of little gems in, and I think the last time I found Doctor Who book in there was probably about 2 years ago, one that I wanted, one that you don't see all the time. And yesterday I went in and there was a whole shelf of Target books. I thought I was dreaming. I couldn't believe my eyes. And my wallet, I could hear it whining the closer I got to the shelf, like, oh no. I mean, I could have bought the whole shelf, mate. I wanted them all, and I spent about an hour going through them all, cherry picking the ones that I wanted. And I opened a couple, and most of them were like £2.49, £2.99, not too bad. And then I put a couple aside. When I opened them up, they were £9.99, and I was like, oh, there's about 4 that I'd put in my pile that were £9.99. That's 40 quid. I was like, oh dear, oh no, I'm gonna have to think carefully now, because I was thinking I could get those 5 or this one. Anyway, I made a few decisions, but I only bought one £9.99 one, and the guy very kindly did it for a £5, because I said to him, if I buy all of these, this one's a tenner, but could we round up the price? And yeah, it's all good. But mate, there's such a cool feeling, isn't it? When you see those, you see the spine, you see the symbol, the Target symbol. It's just, I don't know, it's like gold dust has appeared on the shelf. I was in my element, mate. I sat there in a little coffee shop afterwards looking through. I'd bought about 7 or 8, I think. Just looking through them and thinking, I love these. Love the Target books.
They are amazing, yeah.
There's something about them. Yeah.
It's very cool, isn't it, when you go into places like that, or a bookshop that sells secondhand books, and you just see, like you said, that logo on the spine and stuff. It's like, oh, cool, new Target books. And
because normally it's just the ones that you've been around for ages. You see the same old ones, like the Tennant books that come out, those funny sort of hardcover books. They're always in there that people have got rid of and stuff like that. So yeah, when you do actually see some Target ones, it's like, ooh. But when I bought them, just before I left, he said, oh, I've got loads more of these out the back. I've still got to sort through them. I was like, what? More? Who's got rid of all of these books? I don't know, but I'll definitely be going back.
You had a bit of a Colin Baker moment. More?
Yeah. Talking to Colin, I'm well looking forward to seeing Revelation at the BFI. You reckon you might get along to that?
Yes, yeah. The tickets, they go on sale.
They've literally just gone sale, mate, yeah.
11:30 they go on sale.
Oh, is it?
So,
all right.
Yeah, we've got a wee bit to wait, but yeah, I'm hoping to nab one for that. I've got a funny feeling that the 5th of March, I've got some sort of family thing on there. I've just got a nasty feeling. So I'm gonna grab a ticket anyway, and if I can't make it for whatever reason, then someone can have it. But yeah, I'm hoping to get to that one, dude. It'll be good.
Oh, that'd be cool, because you've not managed to get to BFI in a while, have you? So that would be cool. Yeah,
that would be cool.
It'd be a fun one to watch as well. That, although I feel like the DJ is going to drive me mad. The DJ in it in Revelation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but yeah, it's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, it'll be a good little teaser as well for the season 22 box set that's going to arrive a bit later on.
Yeah, indeed.
Because we normally get some special features, don't we, at these BFI screenings?
Yeah, they normally show little clips and little exclusive clips of what's coming on the new extras. So, and I have to say, the extras for this set look great, don't they? I'm really looking forward to season 22. It's weird because I've said before, Colin's era, not my favourite by any means. I really struggled with it as a kid watching it. Although I liked Colin, a lot of the stories, they're pretty dark and gloomy and stuff. So not my favourite era, but it's weird over time. Even stories like Revelation, which is really dark, and sometimes I watch it and I don't really like it. Other times I watch it and I'm really into it. It's a really odd era, Collins era. If I'm in the mood, I really enjoy it, but I have to be in the mood. Like Attack of the Cybermen, I don't think it's a good story, but every now and again I'm really in the mood to watch it, if you know what I mean. It's a strange era, but an interesting era.
It's a funny one, isn't it? Yeah,
it is a funny one,
reasons. Yeah.
Oh, good. Hey, grab a ticket, dude. That'd be cool.
Yeah, it will be good. Yeah, can have some interesting pub chats afterwards as well, which is always fun.
Yes, yeah.
Yes. Righty, so that's all the news and gubbins done. Not much going on. No news certainly on any of the upcoming specials or anything, and anything of that nature. So we're going to crack straight on with our review this week. But before we get to that, just a quick one, as always, just to make sure that you follow this podcast in your fave podcast app, or subscribe, whatever network or platform you listen to your podcasts on, so you don't miss a show when they land every single Friday. We are on the socials too, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. We chat Doctor Who throughout the week in between episodes, so come and get involved there. Either do a search for us, or you can find links to those things on the website, which is bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. On that website, you can also read the reviews and articles from our amazing writers, get stuck into that stuff as well. And we have a free Discord server. So there's a link on the website. Hop over there and come and chat Doctor Who as well with other cool Doctor Who fans. And remember correctly this week. Remember to
what did
subscribe.
You say last week?
I said remember not to look at your YouTube channel. So yes, remember to go and view and subscribe to Adam's YouTube channel. It is called The Geek's Handbag. The Geek's Handbag.
Yeah, remember to forget to go and sub to The Geek's Handbag. Yeah, I got a new London Film and Comic Con vlog coming out. Well, it'll be out when this podcast goes out. And I'm pretty pleased with it. It's the one where I met Joe Martin and Sasha, and yeah, I've spent quite a lot of time editing it. I don't know how people get them out like the same day or the following day. Like my friend Reese, I think his vlog was out like the following day from the con, and I'm like, what? Mine's taken months, literally, because I've been adding music and bits. Anyway, yeah, go check out my vids.
In a weird kind of timey-wimey way, we are recording episode 341 still, but we're a week ahead of what we were before.
Yeah.
So last week we were recording, everything was going swimmingly, as you might expect. Our professionalism knows no bounds. It was all going well. But my neighbours decided to turn up, and what sounded like they were constructing a brand new TARDIS prop from scratch. I saw lots of wood planks being drafted into the garden, everything. Oh, it's not going to be too bad. And then the old chainsaw fired up and it was game over. So
it was so loud, wasn't it? Gary was like, can you hear that? I'm like, yeah, it sounds like Frankenstein's building a monster outside your house. It's really loud, wasn't it? There's no way we could carry on. It's a nightmare.
It was bad.
Yeah, jump cut forward a week.
Jump cut, yeah. So we're fast forward in time, but this is still episode 341. So we did all the news and the waffle and stuff, as you might expect. And we've had a look around and there's no new Doctor Who news to go through. So we can jump straight into our review, which is really cool. So this week, buddy, what have we got for review?
You say cool. We both said before we started recording, now it's been a week, we've both completely forgotten it. It's Doctor Who, The Faceless Ones.
Hey, you! Stop! Scatter!
The pilot said what? Police box on the runway.
Do you think it was some kind of practical joke, sir? Students or maybe someone?
Whoever it was, they're going to pay for it as soon as I get my hands on him.
I just see the man killed.
This man was electrocuted.
Inspector Gascoigne was murdered with a ray gun. I believe comedian tours to be merely a front, a cover.
For what?
For the mass kidnapping of young people.
This man they call Doctor, where does he get his knowledge? He's a threat to our operation.
According to them, they know you.
You must have made a mistake. I never seen them before in my life.
The Faceless Ones.
That's brought it all back now. Yeah, it's brought it all back.
Yeah, we're good now. We're good. So it was first broadcast back on the 8th of April, 1967, and it finished up 6 parts later on the 13th of May, same year. It was written by David Ellis and Malcolm Hulke, directed by Jerry Mill, and it stars Patrick Troughton, Annika Wills, Michael Craze and Fraser Hines. And the synopsis for this one is the TARDIS arrives at Gatwick. The TARDIS arrives at Gatwick Airport in July 1966. A great many young people have vanished, including Ben and Polly. With the help of Samantha Briggs, the sister of one of the missing youths, the Second Doctor and Jamie must uncover the plots of the Chameleons. So if you can remember, buddy, what's your thoughts on the Faceless Ones?
Yeah, it's all coming back to me now. My thoughts on it were that, well, first of all, I thought this was completely missing. I thought this was all animation, this one. So it's quite a nice surprise when I put it in. And we've actually got episodes 1 and 3 still exist. And it's quite nice to have episode 1 because that really gives you an idea of how things would have looked, like the actors and stuff. So when the animation comes in episode 2, it's not so jarring, I think. And yeah, again, you got episode 3 as well, so that breaks it up a little bit, so it's not all animation. Obviously, you can watch it all in animation if you want to. Now, I don't know about you, but what I did is I watched the episodes that still exist, and I watched the animation episodes, and then really bizarrely, when I got to the final part, I thought, I think I'll watch the last one in colour, just to see what the animation looks like in colour. So it's a really mixed bag of watching this, really, but I've sort of sampled every sort of version of it that's available on the DVD. It's an okay story. It definitely would have benefited from being a 4-parter. I think it would have been a really good 4-parter, actually, but there's not enough story to sustain the 6 episodes. There were times when I was finding this really getting quite mundane, and overall, I enjoyed it, but I think 2 things let it down for me. It was just drawn out too much for 6 episodes, and the ending massively let it down. I mean, the main protagonist is just popped off in 2 seconds and is defeated so easily that it's just kind of like, oh, is that it? It's because he's built up to be this great sort of intelligence, and the Doctor's never met anyone like me, as intelligent as me. He's never going to defeat me. You think, this guy can't be messed with, and he just gets popped in the back and he's done with. So yeah, that let it down massively for me, because it just sort of finished and I thought, is that it? It's like with 6 episodes and just gets defeated so quickly. So that was a bit of a letdown, but yeah, it's okay. I don't think it's a great story. I think it's an enjoyable one, but I don't think it's up there as an absolute Troughton classic personally, because it's Ben and Polly's last story as well, and they're hardly in it. It's really bizarre, actually. They're just kind of locked in a cupboard for most of it, and then the Doctor gets them out at the end, and then they decide to leave. It's a real shame, actually, because especially for Polly. Well, no, I like Ben as well. Or Geezer, he's quite a good character, but I think it's a bit of a sad way for them to sort of just drift off like that. So again, that left me feeling a little bit meh by the time I'd finished watching it. But yeah, enjoyable, good, some nice moments. Troughton pretty much, keeps it rolling along, as he always does when you get a story like this. But I wouldn't say it's an absolute belter.
Fairly, yeah. I mean, that's reasonable. I'm pretty much with you on that one, dude.
Yeah?
I think, yeah, it's... sometimes it can be... With the old 6 parts, with the old the 6-parter thing with Classic Who, generally speaking, you find that episodes 4 and 5 dip a little bit, and it's a little bit of a thing. Especially as we know with the way that people watch TVs these days, it's very different to back in the day where you tuned in once a week and you find out what's going on. Maybe it was a little bit, probably definitely. It was definitely maybe a different vibe when you were watching it, and you were left on a wee bit of a cliffhanger. And when you came back a week later, you're like, oh, okay. It's a combination of having a bit of a catch up and getting back into the story, as well as some new stuff. But when you're binge watching it, as we do, where you watch either all 6 parts or you watch 3 and 3 or whatever, it can feel a little bit of a dip. But I feel like with this one, it didn't really matter that it was 6 parts. The story is still really stretched out.
Yeah.
Even if it was 4 parts, I think it would still feel the same, because other than the first episode where you're setting up the story and you've got the pilots, the chameleon hangar where someone's been killed and they turn up and then Polly goes missing and and Ben goes missing. And then you fast forward to the end where they go up to the space station and they find out what's going on, and there's a bit of reconciliation between the Doctor and the chameleons and so on. Everything that happens in the middle is really just, well, I don't believe what you're saying, Doctor. Well, you should believe what I'm saying because this is serious. Oh, yeah. All right, then. Well, you should listen to him because he knows what he's talking about. What? Oh, I don't know. So there's just loads of to-in and throw-in and repeated story elements that go on throughout pretty much 3 or 4 episodes. And I'm not sure if it was a case of they should have involved the chameleons a bit more and less of the Doctor just running around the airport trying to convince everybody that he's telling the truth and what's going on, or if it was a case of they just should have literally cut, I don't know, it's difficult to say in hindsight, but cut it down to 4 parts and do that, which obviously when you plan stuff in, it's not very easy to do that. But yeah,
it would have massively benefited from being 4 parts, wouldn't it? I think it would have been good actually as a 4-parter.
Yeah, I think so, dude. I think it would have been, because you would have, there were certain elements as well where, don't get me wrong, I don't want to kick off as a negative ninny. I do think it was a fairly decent story, but
yeah, it's decent.
Yeah, there was just certain things that seemed to go on for a really long time. And you think, well, that's unnecessarily just like one scene that comes to mind is when what's her chops? The Scouse lass turns up at the airport.
Sarah, isn't it?
Sarah, yeah. When she turns, is it Sarah? She turns up at the airport and she's come all the way from Liverpool.
Samantha, sorry, couldn't read my own writing. Samantha.
Yeah, Samantha. She's Samantha Briggs. Yeah, she's turned up all the way from Liverpool because her brother has gone missing, Brian. And there's this whole thing that goes on for like 1/4 of an hour where the dialogue is just very laboured. It's like, I've come all the way from Liverpool to see what's going on. And Polly's like, well, that chameleon version of Polly's like, okay, well, not a lot we can do. Well, I've come all the way from Liverpool. Okay. And then she sits down, then Jamie's like, I couldn't help but overhear, we should see the Doctor. And she has no idea who the Doctor is, but he's like, yeah, we should see the Doctor. He'll sort it out. And this all goes on for sort of 10, 15 minutes. And you think, well, crikey, let's, this could have been a 2-minute thing. So there are scenes like that where I'm not sure if they intentionally padded that out because they had to fill the runtime, or if it was just intentionally written that way. I'm not sure, but
no, but you're right because you. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Story-wise, dude, yeah, just a bit laboured.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, because you mentioned that bit earlier when the Doctor's like, we don't believe him, we do believe him, and all that stuff that goes on, and then later on, you sort of get the same thing with the comedians, don't you? Where they're saying they're on the phone and they're saying, we've discovered where you hid the bodies. These bodies that they're never gonna find because we've hidden them so well in the car park. I was like, I couldn't believe it when they make such a big thing about these bodies being so well hidden that they're never gonna find them, and they're just in a car, just been popped in the back of a car in a car park, so easy to find. But then that goes on forever, doesn't it, as well? They're on the phone saying, if you can't prove you found them, we're going to kill everyone and all this. It's like, yeah, well, we are going to prove that we found them. Well, you've got to prove that you found them. And it like you said, it really feels padded, They say the same thing sort of over and over again, which, yeah, it does get a bit laboured, for sure.
A wee bit.
So if you could have cut all that down, I think, yeah, it would have definitely helped.
Yeah, and also there's this element of... when you see people getting killed and replicants, the chameleons and doing their thing throughout the first few episodes, you do get the feeling that something really menacing is on its way. And
yeah, because it's got a good atmosphere, isn't it? It's got a good sort of undertone to it.
Yeah. There's like this, I wouldn't say it's like this big sort of, like with some stories, there's an invasion that's imminent. That it's not as big as that, but you do feel like something rather nasty is round the corner. So you're kind of expecting this thing. And then when it happens, it's like, oh, and maybe that's just because it was animated. I'm not sure. Maybe if you saw the live action reveal of one of the, the chameleons without, being transferred into or transformed or transmogrified, whatever the word is, into human form, that might have been a bit better. But yeah, I feel like the reveal of not so much the bad guy, but the monster or the alien in the story was a bit lackluster. as well, because the atmosphere and the build-up was pretty good over a couple of eps. It was just a bit meh when you saw it.
Yeah, I think that's what lets it down, really, isn't it? Because it does, first few episodes, you do get this sort of slightly sinister, who are these guys, what's going on? And I really wish, so at the cliffhanger to episode 1, which is one of the surviving episodes, we almost get to see the chameleon, don't we?
Almost.
We just see its back. And then in the next episode, which of course is lost, destroyed, whatever, it's an animated episode. So we get to see it, but in animation form. And I think, from what I understand, is they took a little bit of liberty to make them look better. But I wish we'd have just really wanted him to turn around in episode 1, so we actually just got a glimpse of what they looked like in the actual TV episodes themselves. But we don't. So, I mean, the animated versions look pretty good. From what, we can only guess what they've gone on from photographs and stuff. But, I just wish we'd got to see the actual thing at some point. Would have been cool.
Yeah,
like the face melting. I mean, it looks good in animation, but I don't know how good that looked in the actual TV episode.
I think there are some video. There's some video footage or some images of the makeup and stuff. I'm pretty sure. It's just maybe because it's animated overall. Because I think there is some footage that has survived, isn't there? There's just not enough, obviously, for the full 6 episodes. But I was fairly happy with the animation, dude. It was really smooth and pretty good. And I think the key thing for me with these animated ones is the face movements and the facial expressions. I think if they nail that, then that's not too bad. And this wasn't terrible. This was pretty good, this one. And overall, it felt fairly polished as well, because the audio mix is obviously still there and alive, which is good. And then the additional sound effects, like the aircraft flying around Gatwick and some of the effects and whatnot, it was all pretty good. So the whole thing felt fairly polished and stuff, because there has been a couple of animated Who stories that felt a little bit janky with the animation and stuff, but I wasn't sort of too unimpressed with this one. What did you think to the animation then? Yeah,
I actually was pleasantly surprised, because it's is it the same? I don't know. It looks like it's the same team that did Power of the Daleks, I think. And I get really confused between the different animation teams that they've used for different releases, because they seem to have used quite a few different ones over the last year or two. And I always get confused which one's which. But to me, it looked like the sort of Power of the Daleks style animation, the way the Doctor was drawn. And I was pleasantly surprised by it, because although it wasn't anything... They didn't try and be too adventurous with it. It was pretty basic. It actually flowed a lot better than some of the ones I've watched more recently. So I think it's Fury from the Deep. There's one of them I really struggled with. In fact, I haven't finished it. I'm sort of waiting until we get around to reviewing it. I think it was Fury that I didn't finish. One of them anyway. I just found it so static, and the characters almost moved like, they were sort of cardboard cutouts. Whereas this one, although it is quite simplistic, it seems to they've sort of utilised it well. So I actually found the animation very watchable, which was a pleasant surprise, because I don't seem to have a lot of attention span with the animations. I think depending on the quality of them. So I like a lot of the early ones we got, like the Invasion animation. I remember really liking, but some of the more recent ones, bizarrely, I've struggled with a bit. But yeah, I thought the animation was pretty decent on this one, mate. It didn't jar with me at all. In fact, in many ways, I'll be honest with you, I found the animated episodes sort of more enjoyable to watch than the actual surviving ones, but just because they seem to work better with the visuals on the screen. Like, for example, episodes 1 and 3, I've got to be honest, the sets and stuff look really drab, and the acting is, I think, because they're trying to be like, chameleon versions of humans, they're acting sort of zombie-ish, but it comes across as just really slow and laboured and stuff. So it actually worked quite well in animation form, I thought. But I mean, that's the thing, you got location stuff in episode 1, like Heathrow and the TARDIS on the runway and stuff, and you think, when you read that on paper, you think that's going to be amazing, but to be honest, apart from one cool shot of the Doctor by the wheel of an aeroplane, which is kind of iconic, it was pretty drab, really. It's mostly just them running around tarmac runway and into this sort of room at the side of the runway and stuff. It isn't as exciting as it sounds, is it? TARDIS on the runway. You think if that episode was lost, you'd imagine you were missing a real classic episode, wouldn't you? Oh, if only we had episode 1 where the TARDIS landed. But when you see it, it's actually not as good as you'd think it would be. Whereas when the animation kicks in, the simplicity of it seems to work quite well. So I was impressed with it overall, and the likeness to the humans wasn't bad either. So Troughton, because they've used different animation teams for different releases, his appearance changes dramatically over different releases. Obviously, the Web of Fear one that came in for so much stick is a very strange version of Troughton. And also, again, it might be the Fury from the Deep one, I can't remember, but there's another Troughton animation where the face just looks a bit wrong. It just doesn't really work. Yeah. Again, they've kind of kept it simple, and they've managed to capture enough of his features, I think, to be quite a good version of... did I say Hartnell? I meant Troughton, of course. Yes, I meant Troughton, of course, yeah.
Yeah. No, I read you, dude. That's fair enough. It's... Yeah, and going back to that iconic photo of the Doctor behind the wheel of the plane and stuff.
Yeah.
There's actually a really funny one as well where the camera's zoomed out a bit more. And the framing really makes all the difference with that promo.
Is it just a wheel?
Well, the first one, you can tell that his face is very like, oh my God, what's going on? And I don't want to be discovered. But then the other photo that was from the same photo shoot, I think you've got what's his name? Jamie. You got Jamie. He's hiding behind the other wheel, and you didn't even know he was there because unless you saw the photo zoomed out, a different sort of photo, you wouldn't know he was there. But and then there's another one with the Doctor, Jamie, and Polly, and they're behind the wheel as well. So there was quite a lot of stuff that was taken, sort of behind the scenes and promotional stuff. But yeah, you also write around the the face. It just didn't quite land. I get what you meant, and the whole laboured speech and stuff, because you would have thought that if they were doppelgangers or replicants or whatever you want to call them, that they would have put on a bit more of a... Well, there's two ways you would go with it, I guess. You would either do the first one, which is you just would try and make them completely indistinguishable from their normal selves, so you would never know that they were a copy, or you go the other way and really make them sound different and act different. But it was this weird middle ground, wasn't it, where, like you said, they didn't really do anything. They just slowed the delivery of their lines down a little bit, and that didn't help, because there's one scene where one of the copies is now working in the air traffic control thing, and the Doctor goes over to him, and basically accuses him of being a copy, and that scene goes on what feels like forever. He's like,
another one,
it's another one, and he's like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. And then there's a pause, and the Doctor's like, "Oh, I think you do." And and there's another pause, and "Would you mind standing up, sir?" And then there's nothing for 10 seconds. There's just and then you get, it's very, the scenes with the copies were just very like, come on.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. You are sat there thinking, come on, get on with it, sort of thing. You liked the animation though, yeah? You thought the animation was pretty good, yeah?
Yeah, overall, dude, I didn't get through it thinking the animation was a factor in me not enjoying it, put it that way. And I did enjoy it, don't get me wrong, but I think you're right. I think it was Fury from the Deep, or Fury of the Deep, where the animation just is it's not as immersive. It's a bit janky. So when you've got through it, it's a bit like, that could have been
I think
better.
it's that one I didn't get finished. Because I do get them a bit mixed up, the animations, because I had a feeling it was this one until I started watching it, and I was like, oh no, this one's all right. But I think it's Fury. No, I thought the animation was cool. The only bit where I thought the limitations really showed was there's like a fight scene between, I can't remember, it was between our two women at the end. Who is it who's having a fight? Is it Samantha and someone? By the car? There's like this fight sequence in Samantha, like the last episode. And that I think that's the only scene where I felt like the animation, you could see the limitations. They just couldn't do the movements and the fight. I think it was just they sort of rocked back and forth like sort of two cardboard cutouts. That's about the only scene where I thought the animation stood out, was perhaps showing limitations. But apart from that, I thought overall it was pretty good. Yeah, I like the fact they just kept it nice and simple.
Yeah,
it looked all right in colour as well. I know purists will always watch these in black and white, but I watched the last one in colour, and I have to say, actually, having watched the ones in black and white, I actually do think they look really good. But yeah, I watched the last one in colour and it looked pretty decent.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
like the fact we get the option.
Yeah, that's cool, actually. Yeah, I did watch them all in black and white, but I've seen, I think it was one of the trailers when this was in the run up to this releasing, the Blu-ray, the animated version. I think in the trailer it showed the colour versions and stuff, and I've seen a few clips of the colour version. It does look pretty decent, actually. Did they do that with a couple of the other animated ones? I'm pretty sure. Or most of them, you can watch them in colour as well.
Definitely, sure. Yeah, the recent ones. They've done that for quite a while, I think. Because I like seeing the intro in colour, although I still find the face of the animated Doctors strange. But I do like seeing the effects in colour look pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Did you like the one thing that I did like about the story was the very old school, but just so charming in a way, that old school sci-fi feel to this one, because they weren't trying to reinvent the wheel with anything really. When they showed the Doctor pretty much investigating from the get-go really, because the story starts with like a full-on straight out the trap. The TARDIS lands at the airport. Jamie gets mesmerised by a plane, and then a policeman turns up, and the Doctor's like, scatter, and they're off, and that's it from that moment on. So you only literally get 30 seconds really of establishing where they are and what's, they're in an airport, and that's it. From that moment on, the story just kicks in straight away with Polly discovering somebody being murdered and stuff like that. But from that first moment on, the Doctor he's talking to Polly, and she's like, oh, it was a ray gun, so there's none of this.
A ray gun,
and they didn't reinvent or try to reinvent anything outside of the normal realms of classic science fiction. It was like, this is a ray gun that shoots a laser beam that burns people, and there was this little device that knocks people out with this thing, and the shrinking people down to miniatures, and the space station. It all just felt very British classic sci-fi, that's one part of it I did really like. Did you like the sci-fi little parts of it?
Yeah, I absolutely know what you mean. Like the ice pen, when the Doctor demonstrates it and blows up a cup. It seems so small in scale now compared to sort of the elaborate stuff we get. But I think you're right. That's the charm of it, isn't it? It's just so bringing everything back down to a more simplistic storytelling, which is, like you said, charming. Yeah, definitely. So I did. And again, this comes back to the atmosphere of the episode as well. Oh, I tell you what, just quickly going back to animation, the space station, you talk about the planes going into space, that looked great, that animation of the space station. I wonder what the model looked like. I don't know if there's a photo of it, but I don't know that would have looked as good on the actual episode. But yeah, that looked great, the way they animated that.
It did, actually. Yeah.
But again, very old school style, wasn't it?
Exactly, yeah. And with these, I guess that's probably a fine line to tread with the studios that are making these animations. It's probably, as animators and artists, they probably want to make it look as good as it can. But on the flip side to that, they need to maintain a sense of classic old school television feel about it as well. Yeah. And they could have quite easily got away from themselves when it comes to do like the big elaborate sets, or the the big wide establishing shots at places, or like we're talking about now, just a space station somewhere. They could have easily taken some creative license with that and made it this big science, modern sci-fi looking amazing thing. But they didn't. It was just an old school, almost like they did have a reference of a really basic model that they might have constructed back in the day and just used that maybe. But
I get the feeling that may have been the case, actually. Where do you stand on that, by the way? Because I'm always very torn when, so again, I think it was Fury from the Deep, I could be wrong. The animators did take a bit of artistic license and made the animation of the rooms look a lot better than the sets that were actually in the episode. And I'm really torn on that, because I kind of want it to be as close to the original missing story as it can be. So part of me really doesn't like it when they take artistic license. But the other part of me thinks, but it is quite nice if it depends how far they take it, I suppose. If they're just tweaking the odd bit, like there's a little Easter egg in this story of Magpie Electricals, if you blink and you'll miss it, but it's in the background of one of the shots. And I think that's quite nice, throw in the odd little Easter egg, or maybe the space station looks a little bit better than the actual model did in the episode. But I do think there has to be a line. To me, I want it to be as fairly close to what's missing as possible, or maybe just tweak it a little bit here and there. But I think sometimes they do drastically take, artistic license, and I don't know how I feel about that, because obviously it looks better and probably makes it a more enjoyable watch. But I don't know. Part of me thinks surely the whole point of animating a missing story is to show you what is missing. So I'm always very torn on that. But what do you think? Does that sort of thing bother you, or do you just want it to be as good a watch as possible?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it depends, and I hate answering questions with "it depends," but I think it really does depend on, as long as it doesn't detract from the story, I think it's okay to push it a little bit, because I think the whole point of these animated things is it's meant to be a reflection of what we no longer have, right? So it's meant to, it's meant to fill in the gap for us. So I think its main purpose needs to be, in as many ways as possible, to try and replicate what you would have seen live action, and just try and make that sort of a one-for-one replacement in animation. But I do feel like every now and then there is an opportunity to push that a little bit. So you mentioned the sets, making them a bit larger and a bit more appealing, I suppose, to a modern audience. But like I said, as long as that's not the talking point, then I think that's fine. So I think if we're down the pub and we're talking about, any animated story from Who, and the subject of conversation comes up along the lines of, yeah, but they really changed the set, didn't they, in that scene? I think when it's like that, then they've pushed it too far. But as long as everyone's talking about the story and they're not picking up on those little changes and improvements, I think that's cool. So it does depend on how far they push it, I guess. But there was a couple of things in the background that did push it a little bit. Did you see the posters of Delgado, and on the pinboard there was people that wanted posters? So near the beginning, there was a pinboard, and there was another bit where the police officers they're getting ready to jump on their bikes, and you see in the background there's a pinboard, and on it had two posters of wanted people. One of them was Roger Delgado, and the other one was Sacha Dhawan. Was it? I know that I totally missed that. Yeah, so that, to me, that's a little bit of that's really pushing, the thing, because it's not an Easter egg. It's look what we've done. To me, that's not a true Easter egg. So the Delgado thing certainly is, because he was, a master in the classic era, of course. But the Sacha Dhawan image that you see there, that's that has taken it a wee bit too far. It's cool, don't get me wrong, it is cool. But that's a bit of a push in my eyes. Yeah, so I agree with that, because also, the Doctor didn't recognise that master when she saw him, Sasha's, until he did the big reveal, and having him on the wall. I know what you mean. It's one of those things, as is evident here, blink and you'll miss it. I didn't spot that, and I've watched this twice now, once when I bought it and once for this review. So I'll look out for that next time I do it. I think that the other thing that I thought this, and funny enough, the animators at one of the BFIs talked about it a long time after I brought it up in a discussion, down the pub or whatever. And I was always saying, I think that with a lot of the animations, the bits where it struggles is where nothing is being said or happening on screen. So there's in a lot of early Doctor Who, you can hear shuffling around, and it's probably someone moving from one side of the set to the other, or maybe they're doing something with a look. So I think the animators are thinking, well, how do we show that? There are scenes where nothing is really being said or going on that they've got to animate, and that's quite difficult. And I was saying, well, maybe they should tighten up the episode, just cut out those gaps of silence, just to tighten it up a bit. Is that plagiarism, or does that help the story move along in animation? And then, months, maybe a year later, I was listening to some of the animators on stage talking about it, and they were saying the same thing, that they feel like
I think in the more recent ones, they've decided that there are little bits of pockets of silence and stuff that, they can just cut out and no one's really going to notice, and it's not affecting the story in any way. It's literally just someone moving or getting up from their desk or, yeah. So I feel that's okay, weirdly enough. That doesn't bother me because they're not, like the rough and tumble scene that was cut, that slightly bothers me because something is happening. What story was that cut from? Not the Macro Terror, was it? Yeah, it might be. Anyway, so they couldn't afford to animate that scene, so they cut it out. And I think, that's a shame because that's, a lot of fans love that scene and we're looking forward to seeing it animated. But if it's just silence and someone shuffling a pen around looking menacing, but, it doesn't add anything to story, I think I'm okay with that being cut. Yeah,
true. Yeah, those kind of things you can understand because there's either a very good reason for doing that. As you mentioned, there's obviously a finite amount of time and money that these guys get to animate this stuff. And if they don't have the time and money to animate a scene like that, then it's got to go. There's a good reason for doing that. I think it's more when they do it for the sake of doing it is for me anyway, when it gets a little bit near like this Sacha Dhawan poster, that image that you see on the poster. Yeah, I'm probably going against the grain with that. They'll probably get some comments to say, what's the matter with you, Gary? That's very cool. And it is cool, but, it's just doing it for the sake of doing it. And, yeah, it's an okay Easter egg. But anyway, yeah.
No,
the animated, yeah.
Okay, so I get you, because I think new series Easter eggs in these animations have been creeping in a lot, and I know it really irks some people. And I think if you're not a fan of this era, it would. Because if you're not a fan of the current era, you don't want it being shoved in to Classic Who because you've made a conscious decision of, well, you can enjoy it, but I'm not, so I'll just leave that to one side and I'll enjoy the Classic Who. And then suddenly you've got, and it's Sacha Dhawan popping up in your Classic Who, and you're not very happy. So I can see it from both sides. I honestly can. I can't think what the most recent one was. There was something, I think in Evil of the Daleks, everyone was talking about it. After the screening at BFI, they were like, "Oh, I can't believe they were blowing Jodie Whittaker era stuff in it," but I can't remember what it was. So yeah, it's a fine line they have to tread, and I agree with you. I think sometimes the word that you use, which I think is spot on, is unnecessary.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So to wrap this bit, I think the animation stuff was really good, actually, really watchable, and it was fairly smooth and not as janky as a couple of the other ones, but yeah, overall it didn't detract from the story for me. So yeah. What do you think before we get on to some performances, what did you think I know we've spoken about that a little bit, but the villains themselves, then the Faceless Ones, the ones that are either murdering people or hiding them in the drawers or the boots of cars and stuff, so that they could so effectively their home world has been destroyed or damaged, whatever, so they need to rebuild their population. And some genius came up with, why don't we just go and grab a load of humans, 25,000 of them, and bring them back and, population rebuilt. Thumbs up. What do you think to this motive then, and these as villains or monsters?
I think it's a good concept, very sort of simple concept, but I think I agree with what you said very early on in this review, that it doesn't get, they don't get used enough, really. There's too much of, I would have liked to have seen, because you feel the sort of this, like you said, this sort of underlying threat, but it really fizzles out. Then it doesn't really go anywhere. You get a fairly good scene towards the very end of the story where there's a bit of a playoff, and I can't remember the character's name now since I watched it, but the main sort of humanized villain at the end, not the main guy, not the all-knowing, I'm the most intelligent, the other guy. I'll tell you his name because I think he's in Time of the Rani.
Oh, that guy.
Is it Blade?
Blade, I think, Donald Pickering.
I think it's Blade. He's quite a cool sort of, Blade. He's got some good stuff going on in the final episode where he's quite threatening and stuff like that. But, it just doesn't really ever get going in the sense of a good villain. I think maybe that's what lets it down, mate. It's a good concept and there's some good stories and stuff, but the villain isn't quite strong enough, and yet I think it has the potential to be. Like the Faceless Ones and the chameleons look pretty scary. I think they could have been used more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a wee bit. I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it ends up being a bit of a, I wouldn't say a power struggle at the end, but it's like the end is not too bad. There's a little bit of a build up, isn't there, where the guys down on Earth at Gatwick, they're calling bluff a little bit. They're like, we found all of the kidnapped humans, and if you don't stop what you're doing in return, we're going to pull the plug and you're going to disintegrate, sort of thing. And they're like, nah, they're just bluffing, so let's go for it. So there's a bit of suspense as we get up towards the finale, and there's a little bit of a power struggle. So we have so Blade, he kind of cottons on, doesn't he? And he's like, actually, they could be telling the truth, and I certainly don't want to get disintegrated.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a shuffle and stuff up on the space station, and then that's kind of it, really, isn't it? Blade's like, okay, well, yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah,
on your way, Doctor, kind of thing. So there is a little bit of a, because the Doctor's about to be duplicated himself, isn't he? They put him in the machine. He's about to go, and you think, is this going to happen, or is they're going to turn up in time and stuff? So there's a little bit of a build up, which is cool. But yeah, the actual, the initial motive, I guess, for these Faceless Ones to kidnap and replicate all the humans is okay. It's it's kind of cool, but the ending, it's good. But as villains and monsters and stuff, they kind of just walk away at the end, and it's quite harmonious. Yeah,
you've got the director guy who's the one who's saying, "Oh, he'll never defeat me," and he's hardly really used, is he? Like you said, Blade seems to take over at the end and become the main sort of threat. So I'm not really sure what the point of the director guy was, apart from being like the orchestrator of it all. So yeah, and the Faceless Ones, again, they look pretty creepy. I was imagining if I was a kid at the time, you'd be pretty scared of those, but they're not in it that much. Yeah, as in their sort of natural scary form, are they? But that's what I mean. You've got them there to use, they're just not really used.
Yeah, no, I read you. Yeah, and there's a bit of a twist, I guess, at the end with Inspector Crossland. He turns up at Gatwick and he's investigating something that's going on with chameleon tours, and the guy that was murdered at the beginning, I think it's Inspector Gascoigne, I think. And then when we get up to the space station, it's a replicant of Crossland, and he's the guy calling the shots initially, and then Blade sort of gets the ray gun out and takes over and stuff like that. So it's okay. They just weren't used that effectively. But like I said earlier, maybe that's because the animated versions were a bit subdued, I think, live action, because there are plenty of pictures of the live action dudes. They do look pretty cool. And maybe they would have been effective if it was live action, but we can only dream about that stuff. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What do you think to just a couple of key characters which were quite cool? So Samantha, then, she's Samantha Briggs, played by Pauline Collins, who turns up later on in modern Doctor Who. She plays Queen Victoria in Tooth and Claw.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
So she's got a decent relationship with classic and modern Who, but she was a fairly cool character, quite feisty. You don't mess with her.
Yeah, I mean, Pauline Collins has gone on to be a very famous actress, hasn't she? I mean, she was quite a feisty character. She stood out. I think it's always very noticeable when you get somebody who's, I would imagine this is very early on in her career, but she's totally going for it. Like, you feel like she's really into the part. Like, some of them in this do feel like they're just a bit going through the motions and stuff. But yeah, Pauline Collins, she does stand out. And people were saying, oh, she should have gone on to be the companion with Jamie, which would have been interesting, because I think we see a little bit of flirting going on between those two. She looks really sad when Jamie leaves at the end, doesn't she? So there is the possibility she could have been a companion. I think she would have been quite strong. As long as, I don't know, you get the impression from the way she's written in this, she's a bit, not naggy, but they'd have had to tone that down, because that could have got very irritating very quickly. But yeah, she's good. She's good in it. She does definitely stand out as a good character, and some nice scenes with Jamie as well.
She is, yeah, she is a good character, and I like that dynamic and that relationship with Jamie, because 99% of the time throughout all of the episodes and stories with the second Doctor and Jamie, the dynamic is very explosive at times. It's very much, Jamie's quite up for it a lot, and he'll get his hands dirty, and him and the Doctor have the odd slanging match, and whereas I think she brought out a bit of a softer side to Jamie, because he's generally viewed and portrayed his version, the way that Fraser Hines portrayed Jamie was this kind of tough, rough around the edges, sort of old Scottish dude that was, up for a bit of a scrap, and you don't see much in the way of, well, rarely do you see like the softer side to him. He's, so I thought that character would have provided a good dynamic if she had have gone on and been a regular companion, and she was offered that. She was offered the role of the companion, and I think Innes Lloyd and Fraser Hines, they were really insistent that she took the part.
Oh, right.
Fraser Hines for obvious reasons. Yeah. And but she turned it down. She's like, no, I don't want to be a regular at the moment in a TV series. So she turned it down. But she was a good character, I thought. And she's got the same hair now. If you look at Pauline Collins now versus how she was in this, she's got exactly the same hairstyle. So
yeah, there you go. It would have been interesting if she'd been a companion. I'm kind of glad. Well, I don't know really. It would have been interesting, but I'm kind of glad we got Victoria because I like Deborah Watling anyway. But yeah.
Yep. What do you think to the two characters that we first see then as the Faceless One? So that was Blade, and then he was knocking around with a guy. I think it was Jenkins. I could be mistaken with that. Mm-hmm. And those two really dominate the first couple of episodes. It's just those two who Polly witnesses them killing somebody, Inspector Gascoigne at the beginning. And then there's a little bit of cover-up going on. So the Doctor tries to persuade the director of the airport to go and investigate. He doesn't believe him. And then they finally do, but then they cover it up. And so those two really carry the story from the Faceless One's perspective for like at least 2 or 3 episodes. So they were kind of cool. I thought Blade's character was pretty good.
Yeah, no, I thought Donald Pickering was good as Blade, actually, because he has got that look about him that's a bit, I was going to say creepy, but that's not very nice. That's not what I mean. He just looks like he's got a slightly villainous, untrustworthy face. So I think he was good for that part. I'm sure he's a lovely man. Nothing against him. Because I recognise him straight away, because obviously he goes on to be in Time of the Rani. What's the character called? Is it Bayus or someone? He's the one that sets up all the bombs around the Rani's brain and blows it up and kills himself. He's that guy. So it's cool to see him in it, and also Wanda Ventham, who's also in Time of the Rani. So you've got a bit of a Time of the Rani team meeting up in this one, which is cool. The actual Wanda Ventham, obviously Benedict Cumberbatch's mum, it's cool to see her in it. And I thought, although they're playing, everyone in those scenes is playing that very hello old boy, oh, good morning captain. It's all very old school British, isn't it? So she's talking very posh in it, but it's just really nice to see her in it as well. So yeah,
true. Yeah, it wasn't Jenkins. Sorry, it was Blade and Spencer. Spencer was the other guy. Yeah. Victor Winding. Yeah,
there you go.
And I thought they were both. I thought they did a decent job of sort of laying the foundation for those first couple of eps, because their performance is very cold and very you don't mess with them sort of thing. So that was cool. What did you think to the guy running the Gatwick Airport then? I think Commandant's played by Colin Gordon.
Yeah, I mean, good casting for the time. It's very much of its time, isn't it? The Commandant, very snooty, full of himself, just, he's an intruder, get rid of him, all this sort of stuff. Yeah, I mean, but for the time it was made, I think he was good casted. It just stands out a bit as OTT, I suppose. But yeah, I liked him in it. I thought it was quite fun. Some fun scenes with the Doctor as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, defo. Yeah. Okay, and there was a few other people knocking around. So we had the guy that was duplicated and was now working in the airport. He gets found out, and the woman who replaces Polly in the shack for the chameleon tours, the customers, and then she ends up on the plane with Blade. And so a few other people knocking around, but nothing of note really to get into. So principal cast then. So Ben and Polly, just not really in it that much, dude, are they? They kind of they go off, and Polly gets replaced, and they turn up throughout the episode much later on, and Polly's in it a little bit more than Ben, but overall just not much of them really in this one, considering it's their last. I think you mentioned at the beginning you were surprised that this being their very last story, they're just not really in it that much.
No, it's a shame, really, because it is their last story. They get very little to do. And don't you find it weird when we get a story with Ben and Jamie in the same story? That dynamic doesn't work.
It's a bit weird.
I find it, it seems weird because we know Jamie's going to carry on with the second Doctor and we know how good they are together. Somehow it seems weird having the Doctor with Jamie and Ben and Polly. It just, I don't know, the dynamic doesn't work for me. I mean, they're not in many stories together anyway, but but I think that's the reason why, because you've got Jamie and Ben, there's not enough for them to do, so they've got to get rid of one. And, it's Ben. Ben gets nothing to do, and it is a shame because it's his last story, so maybe he should have been the one that went up and, did all the stuff that Jamie did in the space station and stuff. I don't know, but you do feel like they're wasted, and Polly doesn't really get anything to do. The little end scene with them is quite touching. I mean, it's completely out the blue. But just listen to the dialogue we know with the Doctor and stuff. It's nicely done. It just feels like I suppose because we've hardly seen them in the story, there isn't much connection to those characters unless you've been like a long time viewer following it. If you were just coming in and watching the story, they're hardly in it, and then they say goodbye, you'd probably think, oh, okay. So it's a nice enough leading scene. It just doesn't have much gravitas to it for two, much loved characters, really. Ben's, he's not one of my favourite companions, but I like Michael Craze. And I do find it funny, the way he's like, all right, mate, I'm going to bash your head in, and it's, he is what he is, the character, but yeah. But Polly, I think Polly is a great character, and she had a lot of potential as well, and Annika Wills plays her well, so it is sad to see them leave. Just wish they got more to do, really.
Yeah, true. Yeah, and it was a bit of a lackluster ending for those two as well, because it was that thing that they did a couple of times with Classic Who, where there wasn't. This is not a right or wrong way to end, a companion's run on the show, but because nowadays in modern Who, it's a big fanfare and a big event almost. But back then, it was like, well, we want to stay here. All right then. Are you sure? Yeah. All right then. We'll see you later then. And that was it. So, but they were cool. I agree with you. I think Annika Wills had a good one as Polly. She was good in this one. And
I'm just laughing because I'm thinking of the first Doctor when Ian and Barbara left, and he goes mad, and people say that was actually just Hartnell out of character because he was furious when they left. And he's like, "Well, go on then. If you think it's better, then if you think you'd be better off, then off you go," and all this sort of thing. And it's like he was really cross. So. But you're right. True. Normally it's just a sort of, well, thanks. In Dodo's case, not even a goodbye. Where's Dodo? Oh, she's not coming. All right, then I'm off. So it's none of that big to-do that we get nowadays. Yeah.
Yeah, I read you. Yeah. And you're right, the dynamic between Ben and Jamie is a little bit weird because you've got two quite strong male characters who are ultimately doing the same thing, but they're just... the performance is obviously different because you got the Cockney Herbert as Ben, and then you've got this very staunch, no messing around Scott, with Jamie. So when the two of them are on screen together, which is hardly at all throughout the whole 6 parts, it does feel a little bit like, well, you two are kind of doing the same thing, just slightly differently. So
there's definitely not room for both, is there? That's the thing, and we know how good the dynamic is going to go on to be from here with the second Doctor and Jamie. They're brilliant together. So yeah, I think that helps as well with the leaving. You just know that you're in for some good fun with those two. Yeah, true. And then, so we spoke about Jamie a little bit. Fraser Hines, he has another good one as expected. He's very consistent as Jamie, Fraser Hines, throughout his run. It's and he's in it quite a bit as well. He's him and the Doctor as usual. Those two are in it quite a lot. Yeah, he gets a fair bit to do, yeah.
So what about old Pat then? Pat Troughton as the second Doctor. Haven't spoken about him too much, but I wouldn't say this is one of his standout performances as, during his run. It's good. He has a couple of good scenes and stuff, but nothing that really stands out. Like I can't remember, like I'm trying to play through very quickly in my mind the 6 episodes and trying to pick out a real standout scene for him. And I can't really. It was good. He's great, obviously, as the Doctor, but I can't really pick out. It wasn't one of those stories with some great scenes. Can you pick out anything like that.
I kind of know what you mean. I mean, Pat's great in it, and he's kind of the glue that holds it together. He always is, even if you get a really, substandard story or one that's really struggling, Pat will always, light up the room when he comes on screen. And even if it's not a standout moment, I do agree with you. I still think he's good in it. I can't think of any. See, this is the thing. We get much more of that once him and Jamie are together, don't we? We get a lot more banter between the two of them. There wasn't much of that in this episode. The only real moment, I mean, he's great in it. He's good in it. But the only real moment that sort of really stood out for me was when he lets loose a bit and he says, he's like trying to prove a point, I think. And he's like, I'll blow you all to smithereens. And he really sort of starts to let loose. And I thought, oh, that's good. That's because he's giving a bit more, getting something a little bit different from the Doctor. He's sort of losing his rag a bit. I can't remember what he's doing though. Do you remember that scene though? Where I think he snatches. Is it when he snatches the pen? He's been cornered or so. He's like, stand back or I'll blow you all to smithereens. And and then what does he do? He does something comical. It's a very typical Pat moment. But sorry, it's been a week and a half since I watched it. Now I can't remember. Same. But he says that. You think, uh-oh, don't mess with this guy. And then he does something funny and runs away. And I thought that was a really nice moment. So you get like the odd bit from Pat in this. But yeah, it's not, there's no sort of moment in it that really stands out for me with him. But it's still nice. As I said, it would be a lot duller without him. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
No, I read you, dude. It's, it wasn't a terrible performance or anything like that. He's still great, obviously.
Yeah, he just hasn't got those moments that you look out for. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, there's a few funny little scenes here and there, and yeah, it was good, but not his best story, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree.
But it's a good story to come on. I mean, it leads right into the Evil of the Daleks. So we've got some really cool Who around the corner. If you were doing a chronological watch or you're doing a big marathon for classic Who or Trout and whatever, you've got some good Who around the corner. But anything else on your notes, dude? I think we had nothing in the way of music really either. It was just some basic stock here and there.
Yeah, just stock. I didn't notice. I don't know who was doing the music, whether it was Dudley or stock.
It was just stock, dude.
Was it stock music, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's probably before Dudley, is it? Anyway. Yeah, no, music didn't really stand out for me at all. I'm just looking at my notes to see if there's anything I've missed. No, not really. It's pretty cool that we, like you just mentioned, Evil of the Daleks there. Thank God that got animated before the animation budget was cut and closed down, because I think, that would be criminal if we didn't have that in some form to watch. So that's, thank goodness we got that recently.
Yeah, true. Yep. Yeah. Okay, dude. Well, I'm good. Nothing else on my notes. I think it's time for scores. It's me to go first, I think. So
yeah.
I am going to slap this with a 6.5.
I had a feeling you'd go 6.5. I'll just go slightly higher with a 7.
With a 7. Okay, cool.
I'll give it the benefit of the doubt that it may have, if we had all the episodes existing, it might have been a little bit better. But yeah, I'll give it a 7. Oh,
nice, dude. Yeah, I gave it a 6.5 just because it's pretty decent. It's a good watch. It's fairly enjoyable, but it will just it will always remain in that kind of bracket of stories where it's okay. It's if somebody said, tell me we don't do lists, but tell me like your top 3 or top 5 Troughton stories, it probably wouldn't creep in there. It wouldn't be far off, but it certainly wouldn't creep in there. So
I think you might have hit on something when you said about the Troughton moments. Actually, I hadn't really thought about that, but if I was reaching for a Troughton, you do go for ones where you remember the little funny bits that you look out for, like him and Jamie holding hands in the Tomb of Cybermen, and the bit where he's messing around with the computer in the Dominators, Croton, sorry. There are moments you stick on for Pat, and there isn't really anything in this. I think you're right. He's good at it, but there's no, I'm going to watch that one because I love the bit when Pat does that, mm-hmm. or so there's none of that in this, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah. Okay. Alrighty then, so a 6.5 from me and a 7 from him. What did our listeners think? Let's jump over to Twitter. We had Doctor Who Home says it's a fairly decent story. I like the overall plot. Maybe, like most Troughtons, it would have been a very good 4-parter.
Yeah. The
chameleons are cool. Great to see Jamie front and centre too. The animation is fine. Definitely one of the weaker of that style though. A happy 7 out of 10.
Okay.
Will Sanger says it's a good one. The hectic nature of the airport environment works wonderfully. It means it makes sense that aliens would be operating under everyone's notice. Samantha also should have been a companion. It's unfortunately overlong with dull villain performances, but a 7.5.
Villains are a bit dull, yeah.
Spywall Scratch says, very atmospheric, great villains. Gatwick as a location is great. Love the animation, it's superb. Troughton is on form. Bit of padding in the middle. Think it could have been easily a 4-parter. Shame Samantha Briggs never got picked up as a companion. 7 out of 10.
7.
Yes. Davey Paul says, this is one of my favourite Troughtons. I would have liked Pauline Collins to have stayed on as a companion with Jamie. Our writer Jordan says, a decent story, and I like on audio, not so much with the animation though. I think it would have made for a cracking 4-parter and a companion departure story. Ben and Polly aren't really in it though. And Sam would have made a great companion if the actress had wanted to stay. A good story.
Okay.
W.A. Saunders says, a favourite of mine, even if the brilliant first episode sets up a premise that the remaining ones can't quite deliver on. A bit like the android invasion, a great setup which runs out of ideas, then throws logic out of the window.
Yeah, that's a good way of summing it up, yeah.
Yeah. And lastly, Sarah Louise, the running Whovian, says, an enjoyable second Doctor story with good animation. I do think it could have been 4 eps rather than 6. The chameleon concept provided a good storyline and the character performances were good. I particularly like Sam and wish he had stayed with Jamie when Ben and Polly left. A 7 out of 10. P.S. Did anyone else notice what appeared to be the Master in the Wanted poster in episode 1? Perhaps just my imagination. No, it was definitely there.
No, Gary spotted it.
Defo, yeah.
Okay, go back and have a look for that, yeah.
Thank you very much, Twitter followers. And we had just a few over on Facebook. So Martin Arnold says, delayed plane. Why not take this opportunity to be kidnapped by faceless aliens? The sights, sound and probably smells of Heathrow, I think you mean Gatwick, Martin, all wonderfully animated here in a classic that's probably a bit overlong. But I love these animated efforts. They are so charming. Not the greatest story in the world, but enjoyable nonetheless. Glad to have it preserved for the ages. Story equals 7, animation a 9.
Oh, a 9. Okay, cool.
David Paul Morgan says, I'll finish off what I started over on Twitter. I remember this one from when it was first broadcast. I was 8 years old as a nipper. Oh, wow. Did you manage to record these by any chance, David? On VHS anyway? Yeah, remembered as the first episode for Ben and Polly, although I don't remember it that well, and for being set at the real location of Gatwick, being London and Brighton. It's quite a long review, but David goes on to say, recalls the broadcast and I've seen the telly snaps. And I've also got the audio reversion with bridging narration. So I'm familiar with the programme. I love the animation style here. And it's great fun looking at the animation backgrounds for Easter eggs. It goes on to give it 8 postcards from Spain out of 10.
There we go. You see, some people like the Easter eggs, yeah.
Indeedy. And lastly, Charlie Turner says, a very creepy story, even if the animation... even if it is animated, but it is better than nothing. Underrated as well that this is officially the second time that I've been creeped out by something in the classic series with the threat of the chameleons. And Charlie goes on to give it a 9 out of 10.
Wow, okay. Cheers, Charlie.
Which is good, yeah. So thank you very much, guys, for sending in your mini reviews and your scores out of 10. Much appreciated, as always. We love hearing what you guys think of our review stories. Next week, dude, what have we got?
Yeah, so we'll be back to Torchwood Children of Earth next week, and we'll be on day 3. They are coming.
Getting through them.
Soon.
Yep, day 3. How many are in total? Was it 5? I think
yeah.
Yeah, so we'll be over halfway of Torchwood Series 3. So, yeah, that'll be good to get back on that, and then we're over to Classic Who again after that. So we're doing a bit of because we've gone through pretty much all of the modern Doctor Who stories by with the exception of a few 2-parters and whatnot. We're just making we're taking this opportunity to get through a bunch of classic stuff because there's loads more of that than there is the modern stuff. So at the moment the schedule is kind of 1 week Classic, 1 week Torchwood, and then we'll be back onto the modern stuff pretty soon. But yeah, Children of Earth day 3 next week. So get that watched because we'll be asking for your reviews as always on that one. I think we'll close there, dude, for 3, 4, 1.
Alrighty.
Thank you for listening to this week. That was episode 341. Sorry it was a week late. Completely down to me, well, my neighbours last week, so that threw a spanner in last week, but we're back to finish up and our review of the Faceless Ones. So yeah, 6.5 and a 7, and you guys probably average out around a 7 or 8, so thank you very much for that. As Adam said, next week, Children of Earth from Torchwood Day 3, get that watched, because we'll be asking for your thoughts, and look out on the socials where we ask you to reply for that stuff. And in the meantime, remember to follow and subscribe to this podcast on your fave podcast app of choice. Just do a search for the Big Blue Box podcast, so you'll find us on there, or there are links on the website. We'd love to have you as a regular listener, so you won't miss a show when it lands every Friday. So head over to the website, bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can listen to all of the eps on there for free as well. And there are links to go off to the socials. We're on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Come and give us a like and a follow over there so we can chat Doctor Who throughout the week in between episodes. And we have a free Discord server as well. There's a link on the website. Hop over there. It takes about 22.5 seconds to sign up, I believe. And come and join a really cool community of other Who fans and get stuck in and chat Doctor Who over there. Also, remember to check out Adam's channel over on YouTube. It is, of course, The Geek's Handbag.
Yes, and in that wilderness week of us not being able to record, I've uploaded a new video of my London Film and Comic Con vlog, so go and have a look at that. And all the other videos as well. Yes, as always, grab a drink, get comfy, fire up Adam's YouTube channel and watch some very cool videos there. And he's on the socials too, under the same name. Until next week, my name's Gary. My name's Adam.
And remember...
Hey.